Hey, what's up? This is Chris from The Longest Way, and this is the second walking day in Iran. And I didn't camp here. I stayed in a mosque, which was awesome. I gotta say that. I came into this little village. Well, let's start going. I had my little lunch break here. Well, not lunch, like brunch. I think I had brunch here. I came into this little village and I was like, is there a hotel? And I knew there wasn't, but I didn't want to come right away, out with it and say, hey, can I sleep at your house? I don't like doing that. I don't like putting people on the spot. So I was like, oh, is there a hotel? And they're like, no, go to the mosque. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the second guy said the same, and the third guy said the same. So then I went to the mosque and they're like, well, they didn't even ask any questions. They just gave me a room or like a part of the mosque, basically. So this here is where I had my brunch. One of the dudes yesterday, he gave me a kind of takeaway bag of food, but I'd already had dinner, so I kept it until this morning, and I had it just now here. I like to go a little bit off the road for my whatever, if I rest a long time, because I don't like when people think that I'm sitting there because I need help or something, and it just attracts a lot of attention. All right. I gotta be careful with my beard because it always gets in the microphone and then you get these scratching sounds. I was wondering what it was, and now I figured it out. It's my beard. Isn't that silly? Yeah, so like my final thoughts on Turkmenistan, it was a lot different from what I had expected. Some people call it the North Korea of Central Asia because it's so closed off. I think they get even less tourists than North Korea, because North Korea kind of makes money through tourism, but Turkmenistan sits on a lot of gas reserves, so they don't really need the tourists. And they're very authoritarian, like North Korea. They don't have any beef with anybody really, apparently. And they don't have, oh shit, my shoe. To tie my laces. And they don't have any atomic bombs. And they're not really in the news. And they refer to themselves as neutral. That's what they just keep repeating all the time. Neutral, neutral, neutral. Which is, I guess, not the worst thing. And but like, do that qualify as a North Korea of Central Asia? I don't think so. Well, a disclaimer first. I don't speak Turkmen. I was there for 2 weeks. I was there with my little guided tour. A lot of it was spent in the desert, camping and stuff. So I haven't really seen much. And what I've seen, I probably didn't understand. So this is not a qualified opinion in any way. It's just my personal opinion. I can only kind of compare Turkmenistan, or what I've seen, to some of the other places that I've come through. And it looked as if first of all, the economy is picking up. The cars were better than in Uzbekistan. The houses, the buildings were in good shape. Well, and the cities are awesome, because you got this kind of building style going on, and I guess they pump a lot of their money into just these huge representative buildings, but that's not saying anything. Just the regular buildings where people live didn't look too bad. Clothes, cell phones, all these things, all these little indicators. But what really surprised me wasn't that. What surprised me was that people are really, really open and friendly. They invite you in. I really didn't have the time to go in anywhere, so I can't say anything about it. But yeah, I got free stuff all the time. Or like free stuff, that sounds like it should cost money. No, I got like these gifts all the time. I got food, drinks, and people would just, in a really, really nice way, just kind of stop their cars, smile, hand me, I don't know, a bag of candy, take a selfie, and make a little joke or something, and then drive off. And they, I've never been to North Korea, but it didn't have that atmosphere of repression and depression, and kind of people saying through the, I don't know, indirectly indicating that they want to get out. No. Some of the cars that stopped, people spoke English. People had lived in America before. And it seemed very different from what I expected. The restaurants were big and nice, and people were kind of, even when I went into this one restaurant kitchen, I'm just kind of hanging out with people that make the food there, and they're all like joking. But what does that mean? All of this, what I've just said. Does that mean Turkmenistan is not a dictatorship? Nope. Everything that I know says that it is. Does it mean it's like a totally cool place? Probably not. I mean, coming from a German perspective, I would always think anybody should have the sort of basic right of living in a system that has, first of all, a rule of law, where not presidents, kings, or whoever, or party secretaries are kind of above the law, but where everybody is being treated equally. You sit down to a game of Monopoly, and you agree on the rules, and then you play by the rules. And even the guy or the girl who is operating the bank, because in Monopoly one person has to operate the bank. Even that person has to play by the rules. That's a rule of law. And it doesn't. If I'm saying Monopoly is probably a bad example because it's such a hateful game. But just any game, really. You agree to rules. You could say basketball. You agree to rules, and then you play by them. And if anybody's outside of the rules or above the rules, that's dictatorship. That's that's something that I don't wish on anybody. And you can always argue, yeah, the culture is different. No, all of our cultures, all of them, doesn't matter if they're Asian or European or whatever, they're all about dictatorships. They're all authoritarian. And even now, our stories, what we like, the stuff that we watch on TV that really gets our blood pumping. You watch, I don't know, Lord of the Rings. And what is it about? It's basically about a king, Aragorn, who should come back from the woods and be a benevolent ruler and rule the land. And he's such a nice guy. He really doesn't want to be king. That's why he's in the woods. But he should be, and everybody knows. That's, you know, like that's very, very European. This fascination for like a benevolent ruler that I think all cultures have. And it's really, it took so much time and so much effort and so much blood to kind of overcome that and come up with these democratic systems, these rule of law systems. And well, some countries, they don't have it. But I think they should all have it in one way or another. You know, democracy, you could have a direct democracy like in Switzerland, where, you know, you put everything kind of to a vote. You go like, do we want any more mosques? And then, you know, the majority of the people say no. Something like that. Or you could have like a representative democracy. You could have a presidential system. You could have a sort of parliamentary system, like in Germany, where you have coalition governments. You can have all kinds of things, you know. You can even have a king, but it's sort of representative. I wish these things for everybody, because they just make life safer. And you know, they're like our best attempt at fairness. So yeah, to me as a traveler, Turkmenistan was awesome. It was really nice. I got good memories. But I haven't really seen anything of the bad sides that, you know, that authoritarianism it has, and it cannot not have. And it reminds me kind of China. Well, I gotta check if we're still recording. You know, because you never know. Yeah. What about the horizon here? This is good too. All right. Well, you know, a lot of people, they come to China, or they go to China, and then they kind of maybe travel, maybe live there for a while, you know, go to school or, you know, like university, or work a little bit, and then they come back and they're like, oh, China's nice. It's not as bad as everybody says. It's good. You know, like that party dictatorship that they have there, it works really well. And, you know, some things are kind of, they need to be smoothened out, but no, it's good. It's fun. And, yeah, why is everybody like criticizing China all the time? But the thing is really, you being a foreigner, you're like kind of in this bubble, you know, like you hang out with the other foreigners, with the Chinese that speak English. Maybe you even went the extra mile and you learned Chinese, so that's better. But then you hang out in these cities, and you know, the people that surround you are mostly not going to be affected by the negative effects of authoritarianism. Yeah, so you don't see it. So then you come back and you're like, well, it's not that bad. Okay, so in China you can't access any foreign websites of importance anymore. So that's bad, but the rest is okay. No. No, you're wrong. Sadly. There was an article in, I think it was Washington Post, like 6 months ago. And I think it was one of the most important articles of the year. probably of the decade, given Trump, is that many people in the West, in the so-called West, they have no idea what dictatorships look like. Because we have the stereotype of dictatorships. They should be like, I don't know, Stalinist Soviet Union or Nazi Germany or North Korea, sort of poor and like openly repressed and very militaristic, and so it's like very easily recognizable as being bad, sort of Orwellian and 1984-ish. But the thing is, they're not. 21st century 24th century dictatorships, they're not like that. they might look nice, and they have Starbucks, and if they don't have Starbucks, I don't know, they have KFC. If they don't have that, then like in Turkmenistan, they have their own little cafes and restaurants, and then you can get a cafe latte if you want. They have all these things. They have shopping centers. They have they have a lifestyle that, as long as you're not at odds with the regime, then it's good. You can live a good life. It's not going to be hunger and repression every day. That's not what 21st century dictatorships are about. They're about these little things like so the government is planning a road through your little village. So that means your house must go. And you're like, okay, so how does that work? Where do I go? And they're like, well, there's a compensation because we're not a dictatorship. And they give you like this laughably small amount of money. And you're like, well, I can't do anything with that. Where am I going to go? And they're like, we don't care. And then you go, okay, so can I go to a court? You go to a court and the court says, fuck you. And then what do? You go to the media says, oh, this is a kind of a sensitive topic. We'd rather not. And then you realize that you're screwed, that you're suddenly at odds with the dictatorship. And then maybe you take desperate measures. Maybe you go out protesting. Then you get vanished. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just kind of sigh and you go like, well, such is life. But these things, you're not going to see them when you're just kind of, I don't know, walking through the country, having a good time, or working for some foreign company in Beijing or Shanghai or something. And then you're going to think, oh no, it's not bad. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad. This is a nice road here. If the cars were going slower, that'd be better. Yeah, so this article, I don't know if you can find it, I forgot the name, but it's really important. I think, it all comes back to the board game or the basketball game that I was talking about, the rule of law. If you're going to be like some nations that have maybe a little underdeveloped democratic system, okay, you're not going to pressure you and say like, I don't know, become Switzerland now. That's okay, but at least the rule of law. And like in place like China, they don't even pretend. Like China, they say the party is above the law. That's just crap. That's just such crap. Alright, yeah, take a picture up the road here. And it's so pretty. I want that car to be gone. See how fast I go? It's like, where are you even going at that speed? How's the horizon here? Oh, it looks good. I did another calibration, and for some reason, this time, at least in this video and the last one, the horizon isn't totally off, so that's good. So I'm happy. How's my beard doing? Good too. Yeah. Yeah, and all that, different cultures, different people, they need different systems. Some people, they historically don't like being asked to do anything. They don't like democracy. They can't deal with it. They should just have their authoritarian systems, while we, the Europeans, because of the ancient Greeks, we should have democracy. That's just fucking, racist crap. That's like, what was ancient Greek democracy? It was in Athens, not in Sparta. It was in Athens. And in Athens, it was about, if you're one of the few rich dudes that is rich enough that you don't need work. That means you have slaves, you have people that work for you. Then, because you have nothing to do, then you should take part in politics, which means then these select few dudes, rich dudes, they get together and they talk about politics and they make decisions together. That's ancient Greek democracy, and it didn't last long. And like that's like in Athens and maybe another, few other places, but Sparta was not democratic. When we're like holding up these European ideals in in these borderline gay movies like 300. Not that gay is bad, but it's just always a little bit weird for me that a lot of kind of very, very straight dudes, they like watching these movies where other dudes, they get, they go to the gym a lot, then they kind of put lube all over themselves, and then they get half naked. I don't know, maybe the order was wrong, but you get the point. The whole, like, I'm totally straight, but then I must watch Jean-Claude Van Damme doing the split in a very, very small Speedo. Or I must watch Sylvester Stallone, being all like Rambo, steroid Rambo, Rambo 2 or 3, and being all oiled up. Well, anyway, this whole, I keep digressing, maybe it's the sun. This whole, the Spartans they're like defending Europe and stuff and our European values. Sparta is not a democracy. It's a social Darwinist, military rule, basically. A military state. And once a year, the Spartans, they have these weird war games, because there's two classes of people. There's the Spartans themselves, and then there's I think they were called Helots. I'm not sure about the pronunciation, but they're like the working class people that kind of tend to the fields and everything. And the Spartans would descend on them and kill them. Well, not all of them, because they need the rest, but some of them, to kind of show who's boss or whatever. That's ancient European democratic values. No, Europeans, just like anybody else, we like benevolent rulers, we like strong men, we like being saved by very potent individuals, and we find that romantic. We find Aragorn from Lord of the Rings romantic. We find the Khaleesi. Oh, she's a woman. That's weird. Well, sometimes it happens. It has happened in China too. Female emperors. But we find her not only very sexy, but also, you know, this idea that she would go around and liberate and pacify. We find that very nice, very appealing, just like anybody else. And now America is fucking Trump as their benevolent ruler. Thing is, he's not benevolent and he doesn't fucking know how to rule. Okay, that was my 2 cents here from the Iranian semi-desert. I just had a chicken leg and some rice and some cucumber and a tiny little bottle of Iranian cola. And the road looks good, but up there the mountains are starting. I don't know if you can see them in a wide angle, but that's going to be a quite steep climb there. And the caboose is heavy. So we'll see how that goes. You still recording? Alright, have a good day. Dudettes and dudes.